Hello, welcome to another episode of Undercurrent. I'm Deanna Cooney, your host. We have a bunch of fantastic stories from around Perth today, so thank you very much for joining us. We kick off with Alex down at Fiona Stanley Hospital, having a chat with Professor Boo Yeep about his research into hormones and their effect on the ageing process in men.
I'm Alex. I'm here today at Fiona Stanley Hospital to talk to Professor Boo Yeep about his exciting new study that looks at men's health.
This is actually part of the work that we've done from the Western Australian Health in Men study. So what we've done is we've measured hormone levels in about 3,000 Australian men, all living in the Perth metro area. And when we measured the hormone levels, the men were about between 70 to 89 years old. So it's a study in older Australian men. And we also measure the length of telomeres in DNA from white cells. The telomere is it's a protein DNA complex. Essentially, it sits at the end of each chromosome, and it protects the chromosome. And each time a cell divides, the telomeres shorten, and when they are too short, the cell becomes dysfunctional. So it's a measure of the biological age of a person. So the longer your telomeres, the younger you are biologically. The shorter your telomeres, the older you are biologically. And this is biological age as opposed to chronological age and the number of years since you were born. So it gets back to the paradox of how some people may be older but actually look and seem a lot younger.
So how did the idea for the study come about?
We are interested in hormones, and clearly in men, testosterone is a really important hormone throughout life. So it regulates sexual differentiation, maturation, and in adulthood it regulates body composition and virilization. And what we are really interested in is how testosterone influences health outcomes as men grow older. So, not just in your childhood, adolescence, 20s, 30s, but, well into throughout the lifespan when you are 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. So we know that testosterone is important, and we also know that it's converted in the body to estradiol. So testosterone is the prototypical male hormone. Estradiol is the typical, what we think of as a female hormone. But men actually make estradiol, and it's probably quite important in men as well. So we measured testosterone and estradiol in these 3,000 men, and we also measured the length of their telomeres. And what we found was that the higher the level of estradiol in the blood, the longer the telomeres were. It means that there's an association between having higher estradiol concentrations and longer telomeres or slower biological aging. This is an observational study. We looked at 3,000 men, and we've seen this pattern in the results. So it suggests that perhaps if you're an older man, having the right amount of testosterone and converting the right amount of it into estradiol might actually slow biological aging.
Okay, so what would be the process for testing that?
Okay, well, what we need to do is persuade the government to fund a study, or the National Health and Medical Research Council to fund a study where we can actually recruit men, give them testosterone, measure how much of it is converted to estradiol, and then measure telomeres before and after they've had the treatment. And that would be the next step.
Just on that, did you have any struggles at all with recruiting men, or recruitment in general, or was it just pretty straightforward?
It's always, when any clinical study, one of the big, rate limiting factors is how quickly you can recruit participants. And for an epidemiological study, it's slightly easier because you want to get as many men as possible as a representative of a picture of Australian men as you can. With interventional studies, obviously you want to make sure that you're recruiting men who won't run into problems if you give them whatever the treatment is, so it's a little bit more difficult. So it's a really important part of medical research. So yeah, and the more people are enthusiastic and keen to take part, the easier it is. Our population as a whole, not just Australia but globally, our population is aging. We have more older people in the community, in the population. So if we can figure out how to help people age healthily and avoid getting all the diseases and illnesses that tend to accumulate with age, if we can work out how someone can grow older without getting heart disease, diabetes, cancer, dementia, if they can age healthily, then that would be an immense benefit. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do.
The federal government recently released their eSmart digital licence scheme to Australian schools, looking at teaching our children how to stay safe online. For this week's Vox Pop, Tegan hits the streets of Perth to find out who you think should be responsible for our children's online safety, the government or the parents.
So my question is, what do you think about the government and schools taking over the responsibility for teaching kids about safety on the internet rather than parents?
Well, it gives a different view altogether. When it comes to parents, I feel like it's a little bit better, given that it's a little bit more of a personal touch. When it comes to the government, look, I'm not 100% sure, depending on what they're going to teach them.
I reckon a bit of both. To be honest, social media is it's not really good for kids. I don't think. I've got a daughter myself, and it's not really that good. I don't like Snapchat and everything like that. The photos and that you see, it's not all that good. But I don't really agree. But
plus, they're getting exposed to everything else, like what they put out there. There's millions of people that are watching it, that can see their stuff, so it's not really safe,
Yeah, both the parents and government has responsibility equally.
I think it's a joint effort. I think it's good to introduce those ideas at school. That's where kids are exposed to a lot of ideas and socialising with other students, and obviously it needs to be reinforced at home, which is where a lot of the internet use is.
It should be both, really. The parents should be controlling it, and the government should be helping out.
I think both of them are responsible for their children. Yeah, because if the parents don't take over, the children are the ones who look after mostly the parents, and also the government should also take care to see how the society will be in the future.
I feel like a bit of both is okay.
Yeah, well, parents need to take responsibility maybe for what their children are doing online if it's under their roof. If it's inappropriate content, maybe they should be looking at it.
Blocked out, it doesn't matter who's doing it. If they can't access it, that's...
I don't know. Or context is just really important in that situation. It's everything involves context. So it's you just have to look at each situation differently.
And do you think, but actually teaching them, do you think it will help, or do you think some kids will still kind of not really focus on it?
I don't really think it'll help. I don't think. It'll make it worse.
It'll make a little bit of a difference. It'll make a little bit of a difference because they're putting the word out there. If they don't put the word out there, then it's not going to make a difference,
I don't think it's going to make any difference at all. It will just literally be another piece of paper that people will kind of just give out to students, and that's going to be about it. So I don't think it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I think there's definitely it's important to have those conversations. From my own experience, my kids are probably too young for me to introduce some of those ideas of what's kind of negative on the internet. At the moment, it's more positivity, education, entertainment, that kind of thing.
My younger cousins who have Instagram, and obviously it's some parents don't know about the dangers on there, how people are on public profiles. She was 8 and she had one, and so many kids are getting on these Kik was a thing. And they're on TikTok, and anyone can go on there, and it's a very public forum, and there are people out there that can take advantage of that.
This has been Tegan for Undercurrent.
Tradition, culture, family and friends, along with a healthy dose of good music and fantastic food, is bringing together the Hungarian community to share good times and touch base with their cultural identity. It's the largest collection of Hungarians Perth has ever seen, and Angela and Alex went along to enjoy the festivities.
We're at the Hungarian Happy Hour, Perth's largest Hungarian community event. We're here to find out what it is and how it brings the Hungarian community closer together.
In the middle we've got Jozi, originally from Transylvania. On the right we have Mark, who's been playing for over 30 years in Australia for the Transylvaniacs in Sydney. And on the left we have the flat bridge viola, which plays the chords. and that's by Bendagus, one of our locals. Peter on the double bass is just beginning on the double bass. The double bass which he happened to buy in Hungary while he was over there in 2004. Welcome to our Hungarian Happy Hour, one of the most sought out Hungarian events since last year, when we decided to have a Wednesday night where we open the home for all those Hungarians who don't usually come, or Australians who would like to enjoy some Hungarian atmosphere, some Hungarian music, Hungarian food. We've got the rare flour here, the rare flour van. We've got the chimney cakes here. Wonderful food. As you can hear, the music is wonderful. Sometimes we even get up and dance.
My entire life, like Australian history is very like small and it's very narrow. And when we go back home, like it branches off into like building, architecture, like the hierarchy of people, 50s and 40s, going through the Great Depression, communism. My mum is Hungarian Gypsy. My dad is half Hungarian Gypsy. My dad came here in the 60s and then went back in the 80s, met my mum in the 90s, came here early 2000s.
With my father, you know, when we went and seen people, and when they highlighted, oh, I remember when you serenaded, you know, with my father under my mother's window. It's just, you know, really makes you really proud who you are. For me, that would be, you know, part of, you know, being a little bit different, being the musician gypsy.
My name is Borbála Ungvári. I am a chimney cake baker. It's an authentic Hungarian pastry that goes back 300 years, I think. The history originates from Transylvania. It's a brioche type dough. It's slightly sweet. The outside of the cake has a layer of sugar that caramelizes, and it allows these toppings to stick to it. Gives it a little bit of a crunch and a nice softness on the inside. I would say it's one of our most favorite street foods. We don't have a big street food culture, but this is definitely something that people grab, whether in the summer, in the winter, just walking along a pedestrian area, and there's always going to be a chimney cake kiosk or baking them fresh. It took quite a bit of experimenting with local ingredients. From the moment I start mixing it, takes about an hour of processing before it goes into that oven. So it's very labor intensive, but we wanted to make sure that we bring the authentic experience of chimney cakes, which is always freshly baked.
Get it warm, but once it's warm, I'm just rolling it up. I cover it with some oil and then we let them rest again before it goes to the oven.
One of the most popular Hungarian sayings.
Isten hozott.
Isten hozott. What a beautiful thing.
Isten hozott.
Isten hozott, which means God has brought you here, welcome. És Magyarországról jöttél. Most mit szeretném mondani, hogy itt vagy a Magyar Házban?
Hát nagyon örülök, hogy ide eljutottam, és nagyon tetszik itt ez a mai nap. Nagyon szép, nagyon örülök tényleg, hogy ide eljutottam olyan messziről. Először vagyok Ausztráliában. Remélem, hogy nem utoljára.
Hát Isten hozott. She was saying how wonderful it is. This lady is just visiting from Hungary with relatives and happened to be here tonight and is absolutely enjoying the Hungarian atmosphere.
Music, family, getting together and tradition. It's been a great night. I'm Alex, reporting for Undercurrent.
Don't go too far away. We'll be back right after the break with more Perth stories here on Undercurrent.